Okay, great. You just have to face me.
Okay.
No, no, I mean,
Because you're gonna be here.
Yeah, I'm gonna be here, and don't worry about the camera
Okay.
and all that. And so you're ready?
You're ready.
You're ready? Ready?
Ready.
Okay. Great. Hi, welcome to the National Critics' Choice Online News, Save Hyatt. And here today we have some wonderful couple here from the United States, in fact. And they are Bill and Pam Farrel with their wonderful book, Men Are Like Waffles and Women Are Like Spaghetti. And it's one of the best selling in the world today. Welcome to the Say It with Hyatt show,
Thank you.
Mr. and Bill and Pam Farrel. I believe that you guys are also pastors of a church back in the United States.
Well, I was a pastor for a long time. For 25 years, I served as a pastor, and now Pam and I are traveling internationally, speaking at conferences, and we're writing more books and doing a lot of seminars for couples to help them learn how to be more effective in their marriage, and also how to be effective as parents.
Right. Our organization is called LoveWise, and we like to say it's the intersection of wisdom and love. So it's all about relationships and helping people have great relationships.
Amazing. Now, what's your motivation and inspiration to need to promote, and champion as well for good marriages? What inspired you?
I think what really inspired us is we come from really hard backgrounds. Like, I'm the firstborn daughter of an alcoholic dad with severe rage issues. I always thought that our family might make the headlines, but not for a good reason. More like man shoots family than shoots himself. A lot of domestic violence in the home that I grew up in. And when I was a little girl, I thought, I don't want to grow up and have a house like this. I want to grow up and have a house that's full of love and joy and peace and patience and goodness. And so from a very early age, I wanted something different.
And I grew up in a home with a lot of fear. My mom has wrestled with some pretty serious issues in her life, and she's afraid of most things in life. And so most of the decisions that were made in my home were made because we were afraid of something. And so when we got married pretty young in life. We were 20 years old, and we knew three things. We knew that we loved each other, we knew that we loved Jesus, and we knew that we didn't know what we were doing.
Didn't have a clue. We needed some help.
And yet we both knew we had been deeply influenced by our families. So we knew family is important.
Yes.
So we set out on a quest to find out how does marriage and family really work. And our research actually started by looking for couples. Like, we would go to church and we would stand in the back of the church and we would look for couples who looked like they had some experience in life and still liked each other. And we would go sit right behind them so they'd have to meet us. And I would look at the guy in the eyes, I would say, now, you look like you're in love. Is this real? And when he told me it was, I would say, well, how did you do it? And I want to know the real stuff. I want to know what you do every day to keep this woman in love with you.
And usually they said, well, we don't have enough time right here. Can we take you to lunch? And as a young couple, 20 years old, going to lunch, woohoo! That was wonderful. We got great mentoring and taken to lunch.
Yeah, that's good.
And so it really built into our life. These amazing couples that had been happily married for a lifetime started building into our lives.
And how many years have you been married so far right now?
35 years.
35 years.
35 years.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still young, so
Yeah.
well, my wife and I will only been married for just 7 years only.
Okay.
And,
That's great, though. In
that's
today's
congratulations.
world, about 1/4 of all marriages end before year 5.
Really?
So you've already you've already beaten the first really hard stage. Yeah.
So everyone, please try to stick as long as you can. And when you pass 5, you know what it means.
Yeah, celebrate, throw a party.
Yes. And do you have a mentor, or any advice that you've learned from your upbringing that has caused you to last your marriage this long? Did your parents actually influence you?
Right. Actually, my grandparents were some of the best influence on what makes long-lasting love. They'd been happily married for 60 years.
Wow.
And Bill and I were sitting at their kitchen table one day, and it was the day they were going to celebrate their 60th anniversary. And I said, Grandma, Grandpa, we travel all over the world telling the secret of long-lasting love. What's the secret? And my grandmother, she looked at me, and then she looked at Grandpa, and she said, honey, pure grit and determination. And I thought, she really has something there. You know, studies say that the number one indicator of long-lasting love is that you decide you want to have long-lasting love. And so really watching my grandparents work through some really difficult things, you know, they owned a ranch, and sometimes economics were very good and sometimes they were very difficult. Watching their personality differences and how they worked out those differences, I just got to see in action really how to have long-lasting love. And then Bill's dad, I think, is also very inspiring.
Right. The thing I learned from my dad is my dad has a very simple sense of integrity. That if he says he will do something, he does it. And when he told my mom that I will be in this for the rest of my life, he meant it.
Like when he said until death do us part, he actually meant till death do us part. And he kept his word, which is, I think in this world, people that keep their word and keep their commitments, it's a rarer and rarer thing. So to me, Bill's dad's very inspiring.
And what that level of commitment does is it makes you look different at your struggles. That we live in a world that if we're not happy, if we're struggling together, lots of people would question, is this relationship worth it because it's such hard work? And my dad's perspective was, it doesn't matter if it's easy or if it's hard, I'm in. And as a result, they looked at all of their struggles as these are things we can solve. And they weren't always able to solve their issues, but they always had the sense that we can.
We're in this together.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. And facing conflicts and stress, you know, for both husbands and wives today, you know, are they any different from yesterday's and today's generation?
Great
you know?
question.
Has stress evolved, may I ask? And how do husbands and wives able to cope and evaluate their conflicts?
Yes, I do think that stress has changed over the decades. And Bill likes to describe the differences between, let's say, my grandparents or their grandparents, and then couples today.
So in a highly technological age where information is flowing so quickly, I mean, it's actually raised the bar on relationships.
Mm-hmm.
That it used to be people were together out of survival.
Like, we need to hang together because we need to bring the crops in and we need to have a family to work the farm. It was we want food on the table.
And as technology has developed, there's lots of more ways to make a living today than there's ever been. And so it's possible for individuals to earn enough on their own to take care of themselves. And so it's taken our relationships, and first of all, it's added more stress because we're handling 2 busy careers in most homes, plus we have all the responsibilities of the home. And then the other thing it's done is it's got us focused on other needs. Like my parents didn't spend a lot of time asking, do you make me happy? Do you complete me? Are you my soulmate? They ask questions like, can we pay the mortgage? Are we going to make the car payment?
Can we raise our children together?
And will we be able to go on vacation this year? And my generation, they're asking questions like, when we spend time together, do you make me a better person?
And are you really listening to my heart? And so it's actually, it's more demanding in the world we live in just because of the stress and the fast pace of life. And many people come from very dysfunctional, hurting homes. And so the stress has risen, yet the skill level has actually gone down in the area of relationships. And so we see couples really stressed about relationships because there's all these demands, but not a lot of skill that goes with the demand.
And the picture I like to use, because men seem to get it, is if I took you and I put you in an airplane, and I said, Robin, I want you to fly this airplane. If you have no training in how to fly that plane, I'm going to get some really strange reactions out of you. Because you're going to be stressed because you don't know how to do this.
Like, where do I start? Which button?
But if you get training in how to fly, you get to go for the ride of your life.
It's like, woohoo, yeah.
And that's the way marriage is today, is if you get training and you learn how to be effectively married and how to have relationships that are working well, you think relationships are great. But if your skill level is below the demands, then relationships are stressful.
Oh, very interesting theory, and yet very practical today. You spoke about being different, you know, in your book. Men are like waffles,
Right.
and and women are like spaghetti. What do they really mean, and how can men and women, really understand each other? I mean, because really, men are trying to understand why women like this and like that. I know that in my time, my wife, keeps on telling me you don't understand because women love to buy lots of handbags and shoes, and you think that it's a waste of time. You think it's a waste of money, but that's not true. I need to buy more makeup, that kind of thing. So you got to pay the bill. The man has to pay the bill, not me, you.
Right.
And so I said, okay. But I still get very frustrated, and so do my guy friends too.
Yep.
So could you explain this phenomenon?
Right. We really believe that it goes back to the beginning of time that men and women are different. And men are like waffles, like spaghetti. All it is how to make those differences work for you rather than against you in a relationship. And so what does it mean that men are like waffles?
Well, if we were to diagram the way a typical man processes information in life, it looks like the top of a waffle. There's a bunch of boxes, and all those boxes are separated from one another by walls. And the way we as men tend to operate in life is the first issue in life goes in the first box, the second issue goes in the second box, the third issue goes in the third box, and so on. And we as men, we tend to spend time in one box at a time in one box only. So when a man is at work, he is at work. And when a man is like at home working on his laptop, he's at home working on his laptop. And when a man is watching TV, he's
like, hello.
He's watching TV. We do one thing at a time and one thing only, because our minds are actually developed in such a way that we compartmentalize out our thinking. And so we're able to deal with life one thing at a time. And as we mature, we do jump boxes or jump issues faster than we used to. So at times we can kind of multitask, but our nature is to divide them up into individual issues in life. And for part of our life, it's really valuable because the workplace, the home, all of our relationships need that single focus that men naturally bring to life. But it creates some tension in our really important relationships because there's another side to life, which is the side that most women tend to carry.
Right. Social scientists have said for a long time men compartmentalize and women integrate, but nobody really talks that way. And so if you look at the way our minds are wired as women, it's called integration, and it's a lot like one noodle laying on a plate of spaghetti or one noodle in a bowl of noodles. If you follow that noodle around that bowl of noodles, it looks like it touches pretty much every other noodle on the plate. And that's the way we women process life, is we travel through life making emotional connections to the people and things that matter most to us. And so by nature, we're really great at multitasking. And we could be on the phone with our girlfriend and her life's all falling apart, and we're watching the Hyatt TV show and we're like, hey, you should tune in, this is really good. At the same time, we're writing our to-do list for our husband and our 6 kids, as we're cooking dinner and hanging out the laundry, and we can open and shut the oven door with our foot. And we're amazing multitaskers, but when it comes to the area of communication, sometimes that multitasking can be a little bit frustrating for the husband.
Right.
or the men in our
You
world.
mentioned the handbags. See, for us, that's a handbag. But for the women in our life, that handbag is attached to experiences and relationships, and it's attached to her confidence level and her well-being and what her friends are going to think about her and her mom's opinion of her. And so it's connected to all these areas of life. And we're just looking at it as it's a handbag. You have plenty of them. And often conflict starts in a relationship because of those differences. Because we're tempted to say the way you approach life is wrong. And the point we're trying to get across in our book is that they're both right. That our lives need both perspectives, but they really are very different. And so I tell men, you don't have to understand women, you just have to accept them and learn how to work with them.
It's kind of like 2 pieces of a puzzle.
Right.
We're created to fit together, and those differences can be really good for us. Bill likes to quote one of his favorite philosophers.
Which is Rocky Balboa
The
in
Rocky movie.
He was dating Adrian, and Adrian's brother Paulie was concerned about the relationship, and they're all a good Italian family. So Paulie came to Rocky one day and said, "What are you doing with my sister?" And Rocky's response was, "I got gaps, she got gaps, together we fill gaps." Which is pretty good relationship advice, because all of us are imperfect and have gaps in our life. And God created us differently so we can help fill in those gaps. And if we learn to accept those differences, it creates a very cohesive relationship between a husband and a wife. Mm-hmm. If we battle over those differences, we can have endless conflict.
And how is it significant the needs for a man and woman's life today, you know, and are problems solvable, you know, because there's always a friction of differences daily.
Right.
You know, and it's a long-term matter actually. I think for the 7 years I've seen myself, and you know, how can couples able to cope and recognize and identify the need? You know, is there a way to identify? You know, could we do that from the beginning when we first married? Because I didn't recognize that. You know, when I got married, it's like, oh, okay, that's a shocking experience. But so tell me.
That's great.
So tell me, is there a solution for newlyweds and those who are experiencing the conflicts?
I think one of the key things that will help lower the stress in any home is to realize that men and women process stress differently.
Yes.
And we process conflict differently. And for example, how...
Well, like when our wives are under stress, studies show they're going to talk their way through it.
Mm-hmm. Like if I'm stressed out, my mom knows it, my sister knows it, my best friend knows it, the clerk at the store will know it. When I'm stressed out, I just talk it through.
But guys don't really process stress that way. The way guys process stress is...
They like to go to their favorite easy boxes to rest and recharge. It's kind of like a battery sitting in a battery recharger. When you look at a battery sitting in a battery recharger, what does it look like it's doing? Nothing.
Yeah.
But it's doing something, it's recharging. And so a lot of times when the family's under stress or there's conflict or the marriage is on the rocks, we'll look at our spouse and he's like watching TV or playing Xbox or on his computer or on his hand phone, and we're like, can't you see the world's falling apart? And you're what, watching the TV again? And what's really happening is he is trying to lower his stress by being in his favorite easy box. But I think that God kind of helped us out so that we girls could recognize these favorite easy boxes, because when you think about it, most of them are shaped like boxes. The TV screen is shaped like a box, the computer screen is shaped like a box, the hand phone is shaped like a box, a soccer field is shaped like a box, the refrigerator is shaped like a box, and the bed is shaped like a box. And that bed box for husbands is a favorite box for them to go to when they're all stressed out. It's kind of like the free square in the middle of a bingo card, and they can get there from every other square on their waffle.
And it needs to be said, Robin, that the kind of conflict we're talking about, it's very normal in relationships because we really are very different. And as men, I know we get very frustrated because we're always looking for solutions. And our wives are not problems to be solved. Our wives they're a very important addition to our life who bring what we don't have naturally. So they have a perspective in life, they have an approach to life that you and I sitting together talking would never figure out on our own, because they really do bring what we don't have. And so what I tell young guys all the time is, first of all, you need to go into marriage curious. If you think you understand your wife, you haven't gotten started yet, because she's very different than you, and if you remain curious about her, it'll be amusing, it'll be interesting, it'll be fascinating to you. If you lose that curiosity, then you're going to be critical of her. And the second thing is we need to realize that our wives have a need that we don't really struggle with. That they want to know, am I secure with you? And it's based on the fact that their lives are always changing. Because they go through their cycle all the time, they're always changing. And to illustrate it from Pam's life, like there are days that Pam is the most reasonable person I've ever met. On those days, I can bring up anything with you. We can talk about anything. It's just smooth sailing. There are other days, Pam's the most intense person I've ever met. Everything is just like this. And there's other days, Pam's real mellow. There's other days that we call it a no-fly zone in our home, that I just don't bring up anything important.
Yeah.
and I do nothing but compliment her those days.
You want chocolate flowers, yeah.
And so she's asking the question all the time, is it safe to be who I am today with you? And that's not a question you and I would ask each other. Like I wouldn't ask you, Robin, do you feel safe today? Because it's not the first question on our hearts.
Not a typical male question.
But it is a question that women are asking all the time. That's why women test their husbands. They want to know, am I important to you? Am I more important than your work? Am I more important than your car? Am I more important than your possessions? And as long as the answer is yes, they calm down. If the answer appears to be no, it ramps up that need to feel secure.
Yes, we really test our husbands. Like, we'll say things like, "Do I look fat in this?"
Oh.
And there's no really great way for a man to answer that question. The closest Bill has come is, "I don't know. I'm so bedazzled by your beauty, I can't think straight."
Feel free to borrow that one, Robin.
And I tell women all the time, really be positive. Your husband has a wonderful need to be successful. He wants to be a successful dad, a successful husband, a successful at business or in the community or in the church. He just really wants to be successful. And we women, it's so easy for us to try to pick out the negatives and fix them. And there's a wonderful study that's out there that says that a healthy relationship will have 5 positive statements for every 1 negative statement. And that might feel like over the top encouraging, but that's really what it takes to keep a relationship healthy, so people want to come home. And so I think if I had to simplify, advice to wives is think about ways to make your man feel good about himself every day, and then say it and do it.
Now we're going to move to the question about children and bringing up children.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of issue about is there a good formula in raising children, and how can couples like myself can learn and draw experience from both of you. And there's another important factor to this is that how far punishment is measured for a child. There are parents who say that, if you use the cane, that will be good for the child. If maybe we could explain to the child.
Right.
Is there any formula to this to resolve without having to understand that maybe the cane is good for the child? Like the Bible said, if you spare the rod, you spoil the child.
Right.
So, what is your perspective?
Right. I oftentimes think that we jump to the most drastic thing first rather than be proactive. When I look at Bill and I, our sons are now raised, and they're all leaders. They're all, 2 of them are teachers, one at a university and one at a high school, and one of them is an engineer. And so they're all community leaders, and we wanted to see if the way we raised our kids made them turn out. I guess that, and they're all people of faith, and they serve their community. And when I look back at how they were raised, one of the things I'm glad that we did is we have like a family compass. That's what I would call it. A compass gives you direction in life. And that's what we have for our family. We have a family mission statement, and it's posted on our wall. We have a family motto, which is those who honor God, God honors. And we have a family moniker or crest, just like you would have crests that symbolize the value of a company. We have that for our family. And there are 3 things we wanted for our kids. We want them to be learners, have a teachable attitude. We wanted them to be leaders rather than followers, and we wanted them to love God, find their own faith, and be people of integrity, inner integrity. And so we thought, well, how do we make this fun? I don't want our kids to be born into, Farrel boot camp. And so we listed off, about 90 traits, character qualities, skills, things that we thought needed to be in a young life. Bill was a youth pastor.
And they're listed in our book, the 10 best decisions every parent can make.
Right.
So we actually list them out, and this whole plan that Pam's talking about is outlined in that book.
And how to do it, and the learner leader chart. And that's what we decided is we would make a chart. Once a year, we would have learner and leader day. And that's the day what we have forced Farrel family fun. We do something fun as a family. And then there's a contract in there. It's a learner leader contract, and you can just Xerox it and you can put it right up on your refrigerator, and it lists the privileges and responsibilities for that child for the year. It has 1 character quality we're going to focus on for that child for the year. It has a motivational saying, or for us a verse, for us to remind the child or post like a poster. And then the thing that makes it fun for a kid is we make it like Christmas. We do a fun family activity, and then we give them a present. And that present applauds the passion, the calling, that uniqueness of that child. And it's three things. It's practical, something we would buy anyway. It's personal. It says, I thought of you. It's not cookie cutter. All the brothers didn't get the same thing. And then it speaks to the promise or potential of the child. For example, one of our sons was really good at sports early on, so he might be given a gym bag or a poster of an athlete that's a good role model that has been signed to him, or Sports Spectrum magazine, which is kind of like Sports Illustrated, but without that swimsuit edition. So those are examples of some of the gifts that he was given. And he went from a private school, graduating class of 6, to a public high school. And when he graduated with the highest honor that that school gave. And the teachers, the faculty voted on that. And it was called Knight of the Year. And he was given that award. And we believe that part of the reason why is we asked him at his graduation to speak with Bill. And Bill, we said, so what's something that we did right? And Brock replied,
You helped me find a dream that was big enough to sacrifice for.
To make good choices for.
Because we believe every person was created with a God-given dream inside of them. Mm-hmm. And if you can help them find that dream, they sacrifice and make commitments. And where we tend to go in parenting is we're focused on the negative. We see what they're doing wrong and wonder, what should I do about that?
Right, don't do this, don't do that.
So discipline really starts with focusing on the positive and saying, I see a dream inside of you and I think I can help you make this happen. And there's a very interesting verse in Ephesians 6:4 that tells us as dads to raise up our kids in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. And discipline means give people discipline until they can develop self-discipline. So when they're young, they need more direct discipline because their brains haven't developed to the point that they have the discernment to have self-discipline. And that's where spanking or the rod comes in.
And you get done so, I suppose.
Yes, we have.
A few times, yeah. But we try to make it the last resort. We tried everything first, and if that didn't work.
Yeah.
I see. Oh, amazing. And now, is there any, is there such a thing as, there's a question by one of our readers, and I do not know how controversial. Now we're moving towards a different topic altogether now, and that is about husbands today. Wives have called in and say, is there such a thing as a house husband?
Right.
And is, an idea of having a house husband a good thing?
Great.
There has been a mix, feelings about this, especially in societies like in Asia, and is the house husband a good thing or a bad thing for both of you?
Right.
Is it wrong for a husband to depend on their wives for their livelihood? So is there any perspective on this?
Right. Well, when we look again, we take the Bible as a compass, and what it says is that the man is to lead, and that can mean anything. It's looking at your family and saying, who's the best person to be parenting right now? Who's the best person to be earning the income right now? And as you sit down and dialogue with your spouse, if it looks like she might be the best answer to the economics, it's hard. It will go against the grain, and you have to know that. But if he's better equipped for the parenting role or taking care of the nurturing side, then that's leadership, servant leadership. And it could be just a temporary thing as well. It could be just when the kids are little, and so it may not be a permanent thing. The harder part is that oftentimes whoever is earning the income or who's ever earning the bigger paycheck, it's very easy for them to get a little bit of an attitude, thinking that, like, I'm all that and you have to listen and obey me. And that doesn't matter either gender, that's not a good thing.
And I would say, like, in a simple answer, there's nothing wrong with a house husband. Like, there are some men that can handle that responsibility well. Most men are not going to do that because taking care of a house takes a lot of multitasking. Because kids' needs are very spontaneous. The whole interaction of a home tends to be unpredictable. And so it takes the ability to multitask well to handle a home. And most men get frustrated with that because they want to make it more efficient and they want to simplify it down, which then eliminates some of the needs. So most men aren't going to do it, but there's something wrong with men doing it. The two keys to it is, one, you decide together.
As a couple.
Because our emotions always follow our decisions. So if, as a couple, you decide that that's the way you want it, you're both going to have buy-in, you're both going to think it's a good idea. And the second is, you just need to make sure the man's not doing it with a bad attitude.
Or just because he's opting out, like,
Right.
It's too hard to bring in an income, you do it. Because that's not good either. So
Right.
all the decisions should be proactive and for a reason in a healthy family. And that's really the key, is when you decide together, you set out a plan, and then you work the plan.
But it's unlikely it would ever become the norm.
And that's the question I think most people have been asking, and now we have answered. And there's another question from our online news as well, and that is, the marriage code. There are people who have read your book, The Marriage Code,
Right.
and they kind of like ask, is there a need to have a code of conduct for marriage? What's your take on that?
Well, one of the things that we think is really healthy is in the marriage code and in our 10 best decisions a couple can make, we refer to our conflict covenant, and that is, or conflict commitment, and we have written down like rules of engagement, how we'll handle disagreements. For example, we have said that when we're in an argument that we'll sit knee to knee and hold hands. And the reason why is we're just less likely to throw stuff. And then I also, because I travel so much, I didn't want to, so in our conflict covenant it says, I won't use words that if Bill got hit by a bus, I'd feel bad that I said. And so I'm going to take the word divorce out of my vocabulary. I'm not going to swear and say negative, demeaning things to him, and vice versa.
And if by having a code of conduct you mean do we regulate behavior, I would say no. Because the way marriage works, it's really based on Philippians chapter 1:6, where Paul said, it's right for me to feel this way about you because I have you in my heart. And the goal of marriage is to carry each other in your heart. And if I carry Pam in my heart, I tend to forgive her for her deficiencies. I tend to overlook quirkiness in her personality. I tend to give her the benefit of the doubt all the time. If the hearts get disconnected, then we tend to evaluate each other critically based on behavior. And so the real key to marriage is getting your hearts connected and finding ways to keep them connected.
Because nobody can be good enough, long enough,
Right.
to be judged only on their behavior.
But there are basic behaviors that every relationship needs. So if you're highly critical of one another, it's unlikely that marriage is going to flourish. If you place unrealistic demands on one another all the time, it's unlikely that marriage is going to flourish. And so there are some basic decisions about our behavior we need to make, but marriage really works at the level of the heart. And so what all of our books are about are how do you get a connection in your heart that outlasts all the struggles of life.
Huh. And speaking about struggles in life, there's another question that we have also received, and that is, what kind of best decisions that both men and women can ever construct in their lives, and because in areas like forgiveness and anger management,
Yeah.
forgiveness and anger management, how are they going to cope with that? Is there such a course called anger management? Of course, there's a movie going on. So could you tell us how that works for couples?
We have 10 best decisions a couple can make, a parent can make, a single can make, a graduate can make, a man can make, and a woman can make. If we write 10 best decisions a puppy can make, you just stop us there. But we do spend a lot of time helping people make good decisions or good choices, because as Bill mentioned, our